Welcome to the August 16th, 2017 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. At this time, I'd request that you silence any electronic devices and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Applications for rezoning heard during tonight's meeting will be voted on by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The commission will then make a recommendation on the applications, which will be submitted to the St. Charles County Council for their final decision. The individual items and bills for this evening's applications are scheduled to be introduced at the Monday, August 28, 2017 County Council meeting. The following documents are introduced as a matter of record for this evening's public hearing and regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission: the Unified Development Ordinance of St. Charles County, including zoning maps, and the year 2025 Master Plan for St. Charles County, which includes the year 2025 Future Land Use Plan map. Could I get a motion to open the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any changes to the agenda?
Not to the agenda, I might note, I think you mentioned a county council meeting date in August. That may have been September, unless I misunderstood.
So September 28th? No, it can't be. Yeah, it's got to be September 11th. then.
September
Yeah.
11th, yeah.
Okay.
Just for general reference.
Yep, okay. All right, thank you. So I'm assuming, do all you people want to speak on any of these at all tonight? Come up to the, okay. So I'm going to give you a little roadmap of how we do it. What I do is I read the application into the record. We then ask staff for some their recommendations on the items. We then ask the applicant forward, and we have an opportunity to ask staff questions. We ask the applicant to come forward if they're here on it and present their application. They don't have to, but they can do that. We then we close that portion, we open it to the public, and anybody in the room can come up and speak on any one of these matters. Once we've heard the public, we close it, we ask the applicant to come back up. If there's any questions additionally, we ask them questions, and then we close it and go ahead and take a vote on it. So if you do plan to speak, there are speaker cards. We want you to fill those out so we get you in the record, okay? Thank you. Let's go ahead and get started. First item tonight is application RZ1708 at 1995 Pennyroyal Lane. The owners are the Place Family Living Trust. The applicant is Joseph Zellner II. Current zoning is PR Park Recreational District. Requested zoning is A Agricultural District, and the area is 6.7 acres. Location on the west side of Pennyroyal Lane, approximately 400 feet north of Highway N, and it's in Council District 2. Staff?
All right, if we could switch over to the maps, I'll kind of go through this. As you can see.
She's talking to someone back behind us, yeah.
Okay, as you can see right now, the current zoning, this is Park Residential, Park Recreational District. What happened was in 1959, when zoning went into effect, this area was zoned, at that time it was RR, which was recreational residential. Or maybe it's back, no, it was recreation residential. In 1999, with the adoption of the UDO, this was, we tried to match up the zoning, and this went into PR district, which does not allow single-family residences the way the RR district did. The county did offer rezoning. We did it in stages. We did things like this, park recreational. We also did industrial to agricultural. We just tried to get everything back in conformity with how it's being used. Consequently, what happened was, nothing ever comes, to a head, except that the applicant was applying for an accessory structure, which was not allowed under this zoning. And we explained that you probably would want to go back to agricultural zoning to be in conformance with the surrounding property. As you can see from the land use plan, it's calling for low-density residential, which it's not technically agricultural, but it's the 1 to 4 residences per acre. So it's low density. So agricultural does fit into this surrounding area and does fit this application. If this is approved, the applicant would be able to also rebuild their home should it be destroyed or anything or exceed 50% damages. So that's also very important to get this in conformity to the use that they plan to continue using it for. We had no letters in regard to this application. With that, staff does recommend the rezoning from PR, Park Recreational District, to A, Agricultural District, be approved. The zoning change with the surrounding properties is consistent with the surrounding properties and is in line with the future land use plan for the area.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Seeing none, let's go ahead and, is the applicant in the room by chance? You want to come up and speak on it? It's up to you. You don't have to. It's okay.
That's our residence.
Well, that's okay, yeah. So if we're going to go ahead and close. Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak on or for or against this applicant? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close it.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve rezoning request RZ 17-09.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Cleary?
Yes.
Oh,
08, right.
yeah, 08.
08, for the
Right.
record.
Yep. Oh, Mr. Cleary? Yes. Mr. Leonard?
Yes.
Mr. Fromm votes yes. Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Klinghammer?
Yes.
Mr. Setley?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Passes. Thank you. Thank you. Our next application is rezoning RZ 17-09 on Bethman Road. Owners are Carrie Austin and Deborah Austin. Current zoning is AFF, Agricultural District with Floodway Fringe Overlay District. Requested zoning is Light Industrial District with Floodway Fringe Overlay District. The area is 1.53 acres. On the north side of Bethman Road, approximately 2,600 feet west of Seaburger Road, and it's in Council District 6. Staff? Mrs. Marr? Oh, Mrs. Hutchins.
Yes. The property owner has applied to amend the county zoning map, would like to change the zoning from agriculture, floodway fringe overlay district to actually light industrial floodway fringe overlay district. The staff has analyzed the property to the north. We noticed that there's a 600-acre tract currently being farmed as agriculture. Also, south of the property, you will see that there is a property right underneath the properties that's asked to be rezoned. Actually is county property that is no longer available for use, for residential use. The staff has reviewed the application, and what we find is that it is inconsistent with the 2025 land use plan, designating appropriate industrial land use tracts. We consider it appropriate because south of it, there are already uses of industrial property, warehouse with the FedEx warehouse and parking lot across the street. Also to the west, there is also an additional, you can see the additional property already rezoned as industrial, light industrial. So we also, because the property is less than an acre, each one totals 1.53 acres together, we concluded that the property is not large enough for viable agricultural use as well as residential use, because it's not large enough for septic systems to be located on the property. So in addition, because there is residential to the west of the property, we would recommend, if it was rezoned, that buffering requirements would come into play, and that there would actually be a 20-foot wide, inch wide fence and 6 feet high to buffer against the residential property. So having viewed the land use and the current zoning, we recommend that the property owner would receive or be granted the zoning request of changing to industrial, light industrial with a fringe, floodway fringe overlay district.
Thank you.
Is that assumed then that when you're recommending it, that there is the buffer requirement?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Am I also to assume that anything built on this property, it would have to be elevated at least 1 foot above the 100-year flood level?
Yes, it would. If they were to put any buildings on this property, light industrial does allow for several different things. We don't, of course, ask an applicant why they want to rezone, except to get a feel for what they're trying to do to help them in their development, but it's not imperative that they give us that information. My understanding is it's possible storage on this lot, which will still have to undergo, site planning and barriers to residential properties and agricultural properties. So we will take care of that. But if they do decide to put a building on there, they would have to elevate it to 1 foot above the base flood.
So, and then also, can they have a septic and leaching field on this small acreage if we change the zoning?
Well, the problem is, we don't deal with the septic. That's up to the building division to deal with, but my understanding is you're kind of limited, and a lot of times zoning, just because you're given that zoning, you are limited by what you can do with the site plan. For instance, septic systems, they have to be on virgin soil, so it'd be very limited on what they could do.
So also, I take issue with that tract of land not being able to be farmed. If it was cleaned up, it's very easily farmed. Right now, there's building debris on it. There's an old pontoon boat laying on it. There's other trailers on it. It kind of looks like it's been using as a dumping ground for somebody's yard waste and building materials. And also, I was wondering, are you 100% sure this land has never been in that federal buyout program? Because the adjoining landowners told me they think it was.
Well, this property right here is a county buyout property, and this one is a buyout property.
So it's on either side of it then.
Right. This is two separate properties here. This
Yeah, I
one
know
and-
that.
Okay. They, sometimes it wasn't really buyout. If a residence was there, I was not here in '93, but if a residence was there, insurance may have bought it out and settled with them that way.
Yeah, so you've got two adjoining houses out there that are next to this property. If this would be changed, and if it was filled, it's gonna have to have 3 to 4 feet minimum of fill to get up over that 100-year floodplain. It's gonna impact them also.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I don't anticipate that the fill would be spread out on a 3-to-1 slope. I think it would be more something like a retaining wall if they did have to do something for a building. There was no indication that that's where it would be going. Like I said, for an individual, and I think what Karen was getting across, for an individual to go out there and farm it, it's not productive to try and get a tractor
It's
out
the
there.
same type of land that these people
Oh, I
are farming
understand it.
right next to it.
I understand it may be fertile and it may be possible to plant agriculturally on that, but if somebody's not in the agricultural game, they're not gonna spend money on a tractor and seed and everything unless they, you know, they can produce from it and make a profit from it.
They'll make a profit from it, but if it's rented out, that's what all that other land is. It's a rental tenant operation right next to it. And under the permitted use, according to what's in the UDO, once this gets permitted, there are a ton of things that can be put on that property besides storage lots. So you're looking at, from what I've seen in here under permissive uses, you're talking about a bottling works, food packaging, brewery. It opens this thing up wide open to any and all types of permitted uses according to the UDO.
Again, I think because of the size of the acreage, it limits what can actually be done simply because of the size of the parcels. Individually, they're less than an acre, and then to be able to, again, use the, to put in the necessary infrastructure for some of those large projects that's, would be permitted if the property would allow it.
So
it
why
would be
isn't that
different.
in the UDO mentioned about acreage sizes then, under this proposed zoning?
Again, it's a rezoning, so in this particular case, the land itself is not really viable or highly viable for agriculture because of its size and because of the industrial property already rezoned very close to it. We see that it's in keeping, according to the land use plan, as appropriate. That's the terminology that we use from the 2025 land use plan.
So again, going back to why isn't that in the UDO under the light industrial district requirements that I'm reading out of? I see nothing in here about restricted use on acreage for these types of developments.
Well, when you are able to develop property, we require a site plan, and so they would at that point have to conform to the rear yard or the front property size at that point. But right now, it's just simply saying we need to rezone. Again, we don't require that they say to us what they will use the property for, but at that time, when they present what they would want to do other than what it's already being used for, they would be required to present site plans that will have to conform to the front yard, the frontage, the yard is required.
I have a couple questions. If the property is it's 1.53 acres now, theoretically, if they purchased an adjoining 1.47 acres, that would be 3 acres, would that parcel that they purchased, could it be land hooked or used then in this particular zoning, or would that then itself have to individually go under a zoning change?
It would definitely have to be rezoned.
Okay. And do we know how close either a water line or a sewer trunk line might be to this?
There's one on Seaburger Road.
I think it's down by Seaburger, it's about 2,000 feet away. So if they were to highly develop this, it would more than likely go into the city of St. Charles to access utilities.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at, is if you could bring the utilities to it, it becomes very usable for all those other uses that you mentioned. You brought that into it.
I gotta get a little closer to the action. I can't hear everything you're saying.
Sorry. Sir, right now, we're still asking questions of the staff. We'll call you up later. Sorry about
Okay.
that. Yeah. I know you're having a hard time hearing. They need to get on the microphones a little bit better, that's all. Yeah. Guess we're going to have to get some hearing devices in here or something. Hey, I can't hear either.
I can't hear you.
It's just saying.
And also keep in mind that the properties below the property in question is county buyout, so no development can take place on that. So they can't really purchase that to do any additional development on that parcel that's in question.
Any other questions of staff? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and bring the applicant. Is the applicant in the room? You want to come up and speak on this matter?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can.
Hold on a second, sir. Hold on a second. Hold on. Could you raise your right hand for me, please? You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And state your name and address for the record?
Kerry Austin, 171 Pittman Hill Road, St. Charles, 63304.
Go ahead, Carrie.
All my intention is on this property for rezoning is down the road, after I go through the next step, is be to put a building down there and store my dump truck and a couple construction concrete Bobcat trailers, which I would put under roof. And I wouldn't bring them down there until then because I don't trust them down there just yet unless I build a building. So I don't have any intentions of doing anything with sewer, or a house would need a sewer, or any of that other stuff on that list. I just want to, when I get through this, if this goes through, then my next step is to go through the channels to get a building permit to build a building down there. Size is not determined yet. I would work with Ellie and do the site plan for that. So I have no intentions of doing anything other than just building a building down there and storing my concrete equipment.
Okay. Any questions for Carrie?
And like she said, that little parcel on the right is a buyout right there. That's about a ½ acre. And to the left, next to the only house there, well, no, there's another house, but that's 1 acre. I lease both of those through the county for $1 a year. Okay, and then there's a house that sits on maybe about 1 acre. And then the property next to that, about 8 or 10 years ago, already went through this procedure, and it's light industrial. About 1.5 acres, yeah, right there. So.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Austin from up here?
I guess my comment would be, you do realize you will have to elevate.
I can't hear, yeah, elevate, yes. This is the first step. If this goes through, then I would get a, what's that called? Base flood elevation. And I would build it up, whatever you guys want me to, whatever it says to build up. That's not a problem.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody in this room that wants to speak on this matter other than the applicant, for or against? Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name and address for the record.
Brett Schmidt, 24 Pittman Hill Road, St. Charles.
Go ahead, Brett.
I'm for the rezoning. It's going to improve the property. I think it'd be an asset for him and for the county to get it rezoned and get something going down there.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the room that wants to speak on this issue, this application? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public portion of it and bring it back before the commission. Any discussion on this?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Who was that down there?
With the buffering, as it was suggested.
It's in the thing already. Thank you, gentlemen. Mr. Leonard?
No.
Mr. Fromm votes yes. Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Mr. Klinghammer?
Yes.
Mr. Sedley?
Yes.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
And Mr. Cleary?
Yes.
It's 9-1. It passes. Thank you. All right, let's see, no other items, no tabled items, approval of the minutes.
Motion for approval is submitted on the minutes.
And second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. No other business, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.